Finally, phase 3, we get to muscular development, building larger muscles. Right, that was my terrible but best Arnold impression. This is probably where a lot of you guys are used to or most familiar with training. Right? This is very much the bodybuilding style of training. One of the updates in NASM's most recent material has been, this used to be called just hypertrophy, right? Now, muscular development has maybe a different connotation. Hypertrophy, a lot of people think about bodybuilding and feel like maybe that's not necessary for me, but muscular development, beneficial for all. Whether you're looking for functional strength, you're looking for fat loss, right? People's idea of toning. My goal, I'm gonna wanna get everybody to this point at some stage, right? Whether I wanna get stronger, powerful, whatever. It's a phase that's gonna be beneficial, right? For a lot of reasons. But muscular development, you can see though, as we look at terminology, really hypertrophy. Hypertrophy means larger muscles, right? Increasing what we call the cross-sectional area or size of the muscles themselves. Now, we've already done a good job, hopefully, if we've done a little bit of phase 1 and 2, then by the time we get here, right, we've set a good foundation of stability, we built a little bit of muscular endurance, now our muscles are better prepared for the overload, because really what we're gonna be doing here is true overload of the actual muscle fibers themselves, as well as what we'll find like some metabolic byproducts. There's other ways of kind of creating this idea of hypertrophy. But either way, we're trying to overload muscles. And how do we do that? Well, we're gonna increase volume, like we talked about in the previous set. Here especially, for a lot of people, slightly higher volume training, meaning doing more work. Reps times sets times weight is gonna be your overall volume. You'll even find in some collegiate settings, right, from a global perspective, tracking volume is a great way to look at how they might be progressing or when we need to pull back long term. But for most of us, we just know maybe we're gonna be doing, again, a little heavier weights, repetitions that are moderate for most people, right? A little lower than before, but somewhere in between. And also maybe some more sets, because we need more. Your body has adapted and we've got to overload in order to get there. So increase volume, also increase load, right? You guys can see percentages of our 1 rep max have increased. And then inside of NASM's material, they talk about increased complexity. I have a cute little baby question mark here because I say maybe. Honestly, my personal opinion is that inside of muscular development, going back to basic movements that people can really work hard and overload is probably one of the best ways to do it. So I'm gonna leave that to you as a coach, but my little application here, you probably can't even see it, it's so tiny, but it's so cute there. This little question mark is like, maybe, right? For the most part, I wanna find whatever movements they can work the hardest with so we can actually overload muscles and movement patterns and the rest of the body. All right, acute variables here inside of hypertrophy, 6 to 12. Now you guys see 6 to 12 plus, right? So 6 to 12 plus. This is a decent range there, especially plus. What do you mean plus? Just give me a range, right? Well, first off, they're just kind of general guidelines. And what you'll find even more recently as we've created this video in the last year or two is a lot more research has come out on hypertrophy training thanks to Professor Schoenfeld, right? And this is stuff you guys can research out there as well, showcasing that hypertrophy, especially building larger muscle fibers, it actually may have less to do with the reps and a lot more to do with your level of effort and intensity, right? So no matter what, whether you're training a little heavier with this like 6 rep range or you're training in like this 10 to 15, 12 rep range, you have to be working close to good form failure, right? You have to be actually challenging the muscle fibers, which as you're watching this, you're like, that makes sense, all right? But for a lot of people, they think, hey, this is this magic range. It's a great place to start because it is gonna allow you to start to increase those weights, but just know hypertrophy can happen with heavier weights and it can happen with higher, and that's really why this phase sits in between muscular development and strength, right? Even as you're training those, you may end up getting a little bit of benefit here too, right? Go back to the VIP rope that we're pulling up. So 6 to 12 reps, not a bad place to start. 3 to 6 sets, right? All of a sudden now we're doing some more sets here. Even you'll see, inside of here, there's so many different ways of training hypertrophy. You got German volume training, 10 by 10, which is crazy. Instead of doing 4 sets of 10, 8 sets of 5. You have a lot of flexibility in here based upon the person's goals and maybe even their preferences. Maybe some people like to lift a little heavier. Some people don't like to lift as heavy. So I think you have a lot of options when it comes to hypertrophy training. 3 to 6 sets. Also the same thing with tempos. Although your general tempo is gonna be maybe this 2-0-2, kind of like a little robot, 2 seconds down, 2 seconds up, just trying to create this consistent tension on the muscles. There's a lot of other strategies inside of hypertrophy, like doing negatives, right? I wouldn't want to do it all the time because it can be a lot on tendons, but taking a really heavy weight and trying to fight it down, like negatives can occasionally be a method inside of muscular development, overloading mechanically those muscles. So good place to start with the tempo, but again, as you get to more advanced training, you'll find there's some variety there as well. And then loads, we gotta be moving some weight here now, right? Somewhere in between that muscular endurance and our strength. 75 to 85% of someone's 1 rep max, or again, if we're hitting 10 reps, could you have done 10 more? Probably not if you're truly training it, right? You might have had a couple in the tank, and that's a great way for us to continue to train our clients on what that intensity is supposed to feel like here inside of phase 3.